Hi, Poppy.
What's up, guys? Episode 5.
Another one.
We're back.
Yo, we got a different setting. We got our first guest speaker today. I'm excited. Pastor Manny Rivera.
Manny Rivera.
Thank you so much for being here, man.
Inspiration.
No problem.
A great person. I've been knowing him about 2 months now.
About 2 months, yeah.
Solid guy. Yeah, man. We're excited to have you. And
I'm excited to be here, finally.
Exactly.
Last Sunday.
Last Sunday.
Number one fan right here. Praise God.
So usually our setting is at my house, but because we knew you were coming, we bought a bigger table.
Yeah, we bought this table just for you, bro.
man.
Just for you.
Oh, man. Makes you feel special, right?
Yeah, you can't take it home though.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know
This
it's
is-
nice,
This is the
but
beginning of great things, man. This is
Yeah.
how you do it. You're building your foundation. You're building what you are dreaming of, and this is how you do it. You got to invest.
absolutely.
invest.
I invested in myself. I bought a mic last minute, literally last minute. So I sold my. This is how serious it is. I'm gonna share this. I sold my PS4. Yeah, I sold my PS4. Sold a
Wow.
old Xbox that I had and a couple other things just to get another mic.
That is
Invest in yourself,
dedication.
guys. Invest in yourself for real.
He made some tortas, took them to the flea market. You know what I'm saying? Was hustling out there just for
Man,
that one
bro,
mic,
making
man.
that money, huh?
Hey, you gotta go and get it somehow, man. You know what I'm saying? The tortas are fire though. Don't sleep on them, bro. I'm telling you.
Fire, my guy. Yo, Pastor
Man.
Manny, thank you so much for being here. We
No problem.
appreciate you.
It's a privilege.
And we really want to know your story, man. You know, I know I heard it, and I was talking to Angel. We're like, yo, we got to bring Pastor Manny, and I think you have a powerful story.
Yes.
And maybe we can start by that, by you sharing who you are and
Where
Yeah.
where you grew up at and where you're from.
Manny Rivera. My first name's Emmanuel Rivera. Everybody calls me Manny. I've been being called Manny since I was a kid. Born and raised on the northwest side of Chicago. 30. I just turned 39.
I was gonna ask
couple
your
days
age.
ago.
I was gonna ask your age, but people get touchy with the age. You know what I'm saying?
I'm blessed to be alive. I'm blessed
there you
to
go.
be here, and I'm glad to say that I'm 39 years old.
There you go. Not a lot of people can say that. And when you start getting into the 40s, they're like, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to share that.
Nah. I'm a dead man walking. I should have been dead a long time ago, but by the grace of God, He saved me and gave me a chance. So I celebrate every year, every birthday. It's a praise report. Every birthday for me is victory because I shouldn't have been here.
That's great.
You know what I mean?
And
So
praise God. I get still a little embarrassed when people ask me my age. I'm getting old now.
Yeah.
So like, how old are you? I'm like 32.
He's like, let me
say it proud, like 39, close to being 40. I'm ready.
David wants rain checks on his what his age is. I'll get back to you, all right?
You know what? I gotta go.
No, I was just gonna get into so tell me a little bit about your childhood, like your upbringing. How was that?
Upbringing, so being raised on the northwest side of Chicago, we lived in different areas from, I remember when I was like 5 or 6 years old, we lived about 10 minutes away from Humboldt Park. I remember our first apartment where I have knowledge of, where I can actually remember when I was 5, 6 years old. We lived by Costner and Armitage. Went to a school down the street that was called Nixon Elementary School. And I remember it was the third floor. You know, we're a low income family. But at that time, I didn't know that we were low income. You know,
Yeah.
just thought it was normal to live in that type of neighborhood and live in a house where the back door, the porch, that door had a like a gate to it, and we had to padlock it every time we went to bed. And then at the other door of the apartment, we had a big, huge piece of wood that will like keep the door in place so nobody will break in.
Break in the front door?
Yeah.
And
So-
you thought that was normal.
I thought that was normal being 5, 6 years old. Seeing that, and then I remember they broke into our apartment like 3 or 4 different times.
Dang.
And there was one particular time when they broke in, my mom had a rabbit piggy bank. And since we lived on the third floor, we had to go through the apartment, and we're walking up every floor. And I seen the piggy bank, and it was empty. And I remember that was my mom's favorite piggy bank. So coming into the apartment, seeing everything trashed, and being so young was like, well, this is going to be the norm for us. But growing up like that, and then slowly we started moving out of the area, which, we moved from there. We started slowly moving to a better neighborhood and a better neighborhood. But it was always in that vicinity, in that area, the northwest side of Chicago.
I was gonna say, it's crazy to think about it like that, because I remember a childhood too. At one point, I was like, we were sleeping in the car, and I remember those are like probably the best times of my life. It's crazy to think about it, because it's like, you think like the times where it's tough and it's rough, that's when you're the most closest with your family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's what I was gonna say. How are you with your parents? Were you guys a close family?
Well, from what I remember in the beginning, once we started obviously bettering ourselves and moving into these different neighborhoods, family life was okay. I remember family dinners and going out. Every Friday was payday, so mom and dad would take us out to McDonald's, or take us to restaurants, go to movies.
Dollar though, right? She was like, only the dollar
menu wasn't not that. That wasn't really a big thing back then. It was more Happy Meals and
stuff like that.
But I didn't see, my stepdad raised me.
Yeah.
But I call him dad because he raised me since I was a baby. But I always thought that he was my father. But then as I started growing up, I'm like, hold on, I don't look like this guy. I'm way taller than him.
He's short.
He's just short. He got different skin tone, and we have different last names.
Is
so
he different ethnicity?
Yeah. So my mom is Puerto Rican, and then my stepdad, my dad, he's Mexican. Well, he passed on 2018.
Viva la raza.
Órale. So biologically, like, I'm full-blooded Puerto Rican because my mom and then my biological father, that I do now have a relationship with him, he's Puerto Rican. But from the age 1 to 14, I thought that I was Mexican and Puerto Rican. But I still tell people that I'm both, because I was raised with both cultures, and I have utmost respect for Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. It's just my upbringing.
Let me ask you something.
Show respect.
You like spicy food?
Bro, I love it.
Let's go. Certified.
You're certified. That's it.
Certified.
How can you eat tacos with no salsa?
Let's
bro?
go.
Exactly. There you go. You gotta have. You gotta have
the other day we were at
Valentina.
David's house, and he made a sandwich, and he bust them jalapenos on that. I said, this is a true Mexican sandwich right here. You gotta put the rajas on top, bro. Without the
100%.
rajas ain't nothing.
You got to put the Mexican flag first on top of your fridge, right?
I have a blanket, bro, with the Mexican flag. Come on, bro.
But then we end up moving to close to the Brickyard Mall in that area in the Northwest Side. And I remember parents bought a house and everything was cool. But at the age of like 13 and 14, things started getting a little rough at home. My mom and dad started getting a lot of arguments. Then, mom wasn't really coming home that much anymore. From what we knew, she had met somebody else. And there was just a lot of drama within the household. I was seeing her being dropped off by another guy, and it was just a lot of like.
How old were you at that time?
About 14 years old. I remember a Thanksgiving. Before Thanksgiving, we were all together, and there was a particular Thanksgiving where she cooked dinner for us, and she said, "All right, here's dinner. Have a good one." And then she left, and then for us, we're like, "All right, like what's going on?" But seeing the whole concept of that being broken, and then finding out that day where my mom told my dad, like, I don't want to be with you no more, I want a divorce. But I can't just all blame my mom. It was at the time, I didn't know that they were having so many deep issues amongst themselves until I got way older, where I started, getting to know the story on both sides. I'm like, man, y'all just had issues. But for a long time, I blamed myself. And I thought it was my fault that they got divorced.
And that's what I was going to tell you. How did that affect you?
Yeah. I blame myself.
And how did it shift you? You know what I mean?
It shifted me at the age of 14. That's like the whole turning point in my life took place. Because not only did my parents decide to get divorced, that's when I got the phone call.
Yeah.
The phone call from my biological father. on my birthday.
So at this time, you thought that this dude was your father?
My stepdad was my dad. Like, that's my pops. That's
But you,
my dad.
in your mind, you're like, this is my dad.
That's my dad. I didn't know I had another father.
Oh.
How was it, like when you got that phone call? You're like your whole
It was
life.
the end of the world, because I'm now hearing this guy with a deep voice, kind of like mine. I didn't know my voice was that deep. He's like, "Hello, yo soy tu papá," and I'm like,
Like Star Wars.
"Yeah,
Like Star-
like Darth
exactly.
Vader for real." Like,
Right.
Manny, I am your father, and I'm listening to the other side of this phone call. You know, back then it was on the cordless phones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't have them now, but I had cordless phone, and I'm like, clink, like, "Hello, yeah, I'm your father. Happy birthday." And I'm like, wait, what?
Right. I have a dad. What are you talking
Exactly.
about?
I'm like,
Yeah.
who are you? He's like, I'm your father, and this and that. And I end up hanging the phone on him because I didn't know how to act to it. I'm like, what's going on? I'm 14 years old,
Yeah.
but at that age, I was big for my age. I didn't look like I was 14, but
That's when like everything's changing
Everything
too.
changed,
like
man.
you're going through it mentally, everything.
body,
you know?
everything,
Yeah.
growing. And I remember telling my mom, like, I got another father. Like, why didn't you tell me about him? And she didn't know what to say, and she kind of like started crying a little bit. And that's when that rebellion took place inside of me, where not only did she want to divorce from my stepdad, but then she kept my father from me, and that just pretty much put like a hatred like towards
Right.
her.
Like I have my stepdad that I
Mhm.
thought was my real dad. Now you guys are getting divorced, and then wait, I have another dad. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's a
that
lot
has to
for,
be a
for
lot for a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time, just grasping all that, telling her, she didn't know how to respond to it, which then from there, everything just went downhill, because it was just, now she was just doing her own thing. My dad was working third shift. So she was like gone most of the day. And so a lot of times it was me, my younger brother, and my younger sister. We spent a lot of nights on our own by ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it
So,
was just,
so you said rebellion. How did that? How can you explain that a little bit more?
yeah.
Like,
So rebellion set in where, all right, and it was more of rebelling against my mom. You know, I'm like, okay, you did this to us. Now I'm going to get back at you. You know, you're wrong for what you did. So that caused me to
That's when you started
getting
getting into
involved.
the gangs. And
I was
stuff.
I was like in 7th, 8th grade at the time when things started going downhill. No, actually, I was a freshman in high school. That's when I remember some guys from grammar school that I was cool with, and then I got a phone call, and then I started hanging out with them. And from where I stood, I ended up going closer to Humboldt Park, and I ended up joining a gang in that vicinity, in that area. And 14, it just like life went downhill.
and when you joined, like you got your ins and all that, like you were.
I got a violation in the gang, and just got
At 14.
At 14 years old.
That's kind of crazy. Like I was just speaking, thinking about your story, like what you're saying right now. It's always something that's done to you that kind of flips a switch in
Pushes
a
you,
young
yeah.
man's mind. If you think about it, like
Yeah.
you were 14, you found out that you had a like your biological father calls you. You're like, wait, what's going on? Your family's getting divorced. In your mind, I can only imagine you're like, I got my homie right here. You know what I'm saying? He's like, bro, I got you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
Yeah.
you feel that sense of love.
That family came in at the right time when I
Exactly.
needed it.
And the little do you know, that's not the right family.
No, it ain't.
You know what I'm saying? And you get caught up in that. It's just crazy, like how to think about like how one thing can affect somebody to make a decision like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
And so how deep did you end up going in the gang?
So by
life?
the time I joined the gang beforehand, I was always that kid in school that I was always getting in trouble. All the time getting suspended, all the time hanging out with the wrong people, doing, smoking cigarettes and doing just the worst of the worst. I was always involved, and it's like I was that troubled kid even
Yeah.
before the divorce took place. But then when the divorce took place, it was like
It was that
I was
thing.
already doing bad in
Yeah.
school, but that was just like joining the gang was like, now it's my release, my freedom to be as bad as I can be. Like,
Right.
I got bullied a lot when I was in school because, even there was a point of time where I was very heavy and short, and I got picked on a lot. And being picked on so much, and then I got picked on even in high school, the freshman year of high school, where when everything took place, where my parents got divorced, that was that breaking point where enough is enough. now is my time to rebel
Now-
and get back.
Right now, it's my time to.
And then you grew.
And then I grew. Then it just like a spur of the
over.
moment. It just boom, I grew. I had the size now. So before I was the one that was getting picked on. Now I was picking on people
Right.
and doing things. And so the rebellion caused me to get really deep into the gang.
Was that environment in the beginning like? I know you before you were saying that you kind of already been like doing bad stuff and all that. Was the environment like you were in where was kind of already just it was already gangs in that area and stuff like that? And
Well, my parents did the best to like keep me out of
Away.
trouble. But then when I got connected with these old friends, they lived in a more hood
yeah,
neighborhood. Like the neighborhood that I was in wasn't as bad. There
Yeah.
was gangs in the area, but it wasn't as bad. But when I started hanging out with them,
You got-
they were close to the Humboldt Park. And then, it was like going back to the old stomping grounds when I was younger. I ended up going back to that same area and just got...
and that's probably like when that's probably when things were good too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back when you went back to that area where you stayed at.
It was different. And it was like more of you have that freedom. Like mom and dad ain't over your shoulder. Now you're 14, you're on your own. Like you think, and then you're hanging out with older dudes. You know what I'm saying? They're older. They got money. They got girls. They're smoking weed, drinking, and it's just like this lifestyle that they're showing you. They're riding around with guns and all that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, like these dudes way older than me.
Do you remember, do you have a story that you can share with us? Like something that was like
The first time where it became really that adrenaline rush. Like first time I was about close to hitting 15. It was around the time when the Bulls won. About 96, 97.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm too young.
Yeah. Around that time, 96, 97, the Chicago Bulls had won. And
But this is when they won the playoffs, or
the everything.
Everything,
Championship.
oh.
I think it was 96,
All
I believe. I think it was 96.
people are gonna make fun of me about that, but
or
it's
90
okay.
or 97. It was around that time. And the chief of the gang, he had a white Chevy, I forgot, it was a white Chevy car, sedan. I forgot the brand of it. I'm young. He's older than me. I get in the car, and I'm in the passenger side. The car's white, just decked out with black tints and got the sound in it. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's humming, and right away he gives me the pistol. First time I ever held a pistol in my life. I'm about 14 and a half, 15.
Dang.
I got a pistol in my hand. It's like, I think it was a 9mm or 45. It was a big pistol, you know what I'm saying? And at that time, I couldn't really identify it because it was dark. And he gives me the gun. And he's like, all right, homie, this is what we're going to do, shorty. We're going to start riding around. We see anybody, you just got to open this window. You got to let them have it.
Anybody?
He's like, where I tell you, he's like pretty much looking for somebody. He's like,
And if
all
you
right,
see
if you
somebody-
see somebody, you're going to pull it out and you're going to shoot it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm sweating. I'm scared.
Right.
As I ain't never done this before. And he's like, you ever shot a gun before, little homie? And I'm like, nah, I never did it. He said, it's easy, man. All I got to do is just point and shoot. He said, that's all you got to do. It's ready. I got to just pull it out the window. I tell you to shoot. You shoot.
Yeah.
Aim and shoot. And I'm like, okay. But we're riding around. I'm scared. You know what I'm saying? I'm a kid.
Yeah.
And I got a gun in my hand.
you're
You know what I mean?
14
14 years
yeah.
old. I'm trembling. I got cold sweats in this hot summer day. And I'm thinking like, please, at that time, even though I didn't know God, I'm still like pleading like, please, if there's a guy, like,
Please help me out.
Don't
Get
let
me out
this
of this
happen.
situation. Yeah.
Feeling scared. You know what I'm saying? But we're riding around. Nothing happened. There was nobody to shoot or nobody around. So I'm like, I remember getting out of the car that day, and it was just like, I got more and more like involved. I was smoking a lot of weed. I was drinking a lot of like brandy, Irk and Jerk. They call it E&J brandy. I was drinking a lot of that stuff. Being so young, just starting to get intoxicated. And then I caught my first case. I got a pistol case when I was 15, 16. I caught a pistol case. I got caught with a gun. And I was fairly new to the streets, fairly new to being on the block, walking around with the pistol. And, it was my time to do security, And I was told if the cops come, you got to run. My mistake was cops came. I'm so young, I froze. I didn't run. And they came, the detectives grabbed me and locked me up for a pistol and took me to the juvenile center in Chicago on Roosevelt and Western, little Audi home they call it. And that was my first taste of jail.
Jail.
First taste of being behind bars and being there with amongst other
And
teenagers.
even after that, like you were still like in the lifestyle and still.
Yeah, and I
In
want to know
jail.
like how
Yeah.
deep did you get in it? You know what I mean?
deep into the
yeah,
gang.
even
like,
to the addictions and all these other
as
lifestyle that
as
comes with it.
the time passed, I end up getting out of jail. I was about 16 now, and I got deep involved into the life. When my mother was like, if I don't take this kid out of here, they're gonna end up killing this kid on the street. So she ended up going to calling my biological father and telling him he lived in Puerto Rico. She calls him and tells him, you need to come get your son
Yeah,
because he's heavily involved in gangs. They're gonna kill him out here.
it's getting
So-
real.
He ended up coming out from Puerto Rico. At the time, I was staying with one of the guys' houses. One of the boys used to run with, and he came and picked me up, and I ended up living with him in Puerto Rico for a year. And I was out there in Puerto Rico, even though new surroundings, new settings, but mindset was the same. I still had a destructive mindset, still had that gang infested
Mentality.
mindset.
Yeah.
So I went over there and I had my little group, and I started my own little gang in my own little
In Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico,
in my own
dude.
little town we were from, being in school over there. And I remember having a group of guys, and I was starting to give them nicknames and all that.
Dang.
And my father found out that I was I was up to no good.
You got out of that environment, then you made your own environment
that I
and
was used to over there.
That's crazy.
I was out there in Puerto Rico for a year, and my dad found out about everything I was doing. And from one day to another, I remember I was at school. He goes to the school. He says say bye to all your friends. You're going back to Chicago tomorrow. And then leaving that surrounding, being in Puerto Rico now, coming back to Chicago a year later, that he literally had took me away from the gang that I was involved in.
Yeah.
And come to find out that they were looking for me because I have left.
They're like,
So,
where'd he go?
Where'd he go and all that.
So what was the turning point after all this?
At that turning point, I end up leaving that gang, joining another gang, because that gang wanted to do me wrong, and they wanted to do some stuff to me. So I was about 17, 18. I end up joining another gang, and then that's where
What was the original gang you were in?
I'm not saying no names.
You know what I'm
man.
saying?
Nah, I'm not gonna
Come on.
specify
Yeah.
the gang that I was in.
Yo, are
That's
you,
just
are you
information
for
I
him
don't
or
share.
against him?
Right? I'm like,
Yo,
I'm
he
like,
was gonna set you up, bro.
Who were you, bro?
I'm like,
For real.
what gang?
What area? Can you
what
tell
was
me the colors you
Right,
wore?
hold on. I'm taking notes.
I'm taking
Hold on.
notes.
Okay.
What was the name of the leader?
Yeah. So no, I was since my dad ended up grabbing me from there and taking me away for a whole year, coming back to this place, there was probably a lack of trust, and I kept hearing a bunch of negativity that they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that to you. It's best you don't go back there. But still having that same mindset, gang mindset, street mindset, I just started hanging out with another group of people.
You got back to what you know.
Got right back. But see, the thing is, as being young, my mom was always transferring me to different schools. So from a young age, I was just going to different elementary schools. So I had friends in different areas, you know what I'm saying? So he was another group of friends from another school that I went to that was involved in another gang. And I ended up joining that gang. And that's that gang that I got heavily involved in. That's where the...
And at this time, you were how old? Like 17? 18.
17, 18 years old. I got heavily involved. Started doing way more drugs. Started sniffing cocaine. That's where the cocaine addiction stepped in. It really took a hold of me. I ended up being homeless. I was homeless about 4 months, 5 months. I was living in the hood. My mom at the time she was with her new boyfriend, and they were about to get married and stuff. And I was rebellious.
They were kind of just like moving on without you. Like, oh,
she was doing her own thing. So
yeah.
I didn't want to stay in that environment. So I'm like, I'm gonna go do me. And I ended up, living in the neighborhood. I had warrants out for my arrest. It was deep, man. I was like messed up, bro.
Yeah. Would you say like to like 15 to what age? Like 21 or?
That involved with the street life?
Yeah, like you were.
Oh man, 15 to like 23.
Oh yeah, so you this it's all you.
That
knew,
was all I
basically.
knew. All my young life from 14 to 23 years old was the streets.
So how do you go from that lifestyle to becoming a pastor now?
Ooh man.
Yeah, that's what.
That's what we're here
that's
for.
what we want to hear. Cause
Yo, hey,
you know what I'm
stay
saying?
tuned for episode 6.
I could tell you
To be
deep about the
continued.
war stories, man. But yeah, I got more and more deep into the gangs. I end up going. I caught a case. I end up going to prison. I was in prison for counting. I was basically about 3 years.
Oh, you were in prison for 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was locked up in the joint. Yeah, it was some rough times.
I was gonna say that's probably a whole story
That's a whole
in
nother
itself.
story. But I got the taste of being in Cook County and fighting the case, and then being sent off and stepping into Stateville Penitentiary and going there, and then being shipped off. I was shipped off to boot camp, and I was in boot camp for a few months, and then ended up getting out on parole. And I was out on parole. I messed up my parole. And then I ended up doing a whole year in prison because I messed up my parole time. So when I counted all the time that I did together, I was 3 years literally locked up. Like came out for maybe a couple weeks and I was right back in. But getting away from all that, I did the time. I was in prison and all that. I had met my wife before I went to prison, and she was there for me. She would write me letters.
Where did you meet her?
At Burger King.
Let's go, baby.
He was like,
Yo,
I met
Big Q.
my better half, my rib. I met her at Burger King.
Shout out.
Shout out to Burger King over there at Six Corners on Milwaukee and Irving Park. Burger King. That's where I met her.
he was like, "What you want? You want the Whopper? What you want?"
I was
you want me?
I was the fry guy. I was SpongeBob, the fry guy,
there
cooking
you
up
go.
the fries, bro.
You're in the back.
Yeah, I was frying them things, man. And I seen her, and
He was like, "I'll make them special for you. I got you. I got you."
Extra sal.
He was putting some tahini on those fries.
man, bro, it was like first love. You know, I seen her, I fell in love. Her cousin was working with me at Burger King, and I said, "Man, who's that?" She said, "That's my cousin."
Let's go.
Introduced me, so I got introduced to her, and you know, it took off from there. But I was still involved in the street life or whatever, and I ended up going to prison. And I get out of prison, she was there. You know what I'm saying?
Was she in like street life too as well?
Well, her whole family was.
Uh-huh.
And she was obviously in the other she was in the opposition gang.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when her family
Oh, that's tough, bro.
It's like a
Yes.
dude. This is like a story, man. This is like a movie right here,
you could write a
bro.
book. You could make a movie of this.
So for like family, gatherings and stuff, did you
Bro,
would you go?
It was
No.
tough because there came a point where
Bro, my boy was in love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real love.
yes,
That's
when I
real
was
love.
I got out of jail,
Nervous.
and then
he was like, "What's I gotta go."
when she when her cousins found out like what gang I was involved in, they pretty much came at me like, "You do anything wrong to our cousin, we gonna get you."
We got you. Yeah.
And it was rough in the beginning, because they was testing me out. They were gonna see, what's up with this dude. He's in opposition. He's part of another gang. He ain't welcome here. So there was animosity in the beginning. And I remember there would be family parties, and then some of their boys will be there.
You see somebody that's familiar that you know, and
Some
like,
of
you're
the
just
boys
like,
will be there, and they'll give me dirty looks. Like, look at this op, man. He's up here in our family party. He's up here.
He's
like,
over here eating the tacos
Yeah.
that my grandma made.
and they knew that I was an op. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But they wouldn't do anything because out of the respect they had for my wife, and
That's
her
crazy.
cousins were like high-ranking members of the organization that they were from.
Yeah.
So they pretty much gave the word like, don't do nothing to him. But I think God that it was God watching over me, even though before I knew God.
Yeah.
But it was also her mom, my mother-in-law, that had spoke up for me. She's like, no, my daughter's in love with him. Don't touch him. Leave him alone. Yeah, he's involved in that life, but
I would assume that you were like you were probably respectful and treating her right, and she's seen that.
at a
and-
time, at a point. But then when addiction gets a hold of you,
Yeah.
and you
You
pretty
become
much
a different
you
person.
get blinded. And since
Yeah.
I was so addicted to the cocaine and smoking weed every day and drinking, that was my go-to. Like that was first before her. So I would rather, if I have to ditch you to
gonna
go
go.
get high,
I'm
go
gonna
get
ditch you.
drunk, I'm gonna
Yeah.
ditch you. If I gotta leave you here and leave you stranded with your family, which I did, there were some times I left her stranded, took her car and everything, disappeared for days.
Wow.
And being like, in drug houses and nation cribs, getting high for days at a time, where she was calling up the morgue, seeing if I was dead or alive, and not knowing where I was at, not answering my
crazy.
phone or whatnot. But then, her cousins put out an APB on me, and they pretty much told her like, we know where he's at. All you got to do is give us the green light, and we'll take him out. And she's like,
Dang.
nah, don't do nothing to him. But long story short, she kept like, she was
like your rock. She was there for
yeah,
you.
and her grandma, which would love it to death, may she rest in peace. She was She was the grandma, the Christian grandma of the family. You know what I mean? Like the whole family would go to her for prayer. And when I first met her grandma, it's like I seen Christ through her, even though I didn't know who God was, but through her, you know what I'm saying? She showed this type of love that I hadn't received, you know, from a believer.
That's
and
crazy.
Then when I met her grandma, she told me straight up, she said, God has a calling in your life. And she said, you're going to be a pastor one day. You're going to be a preacher. And I'm like, what's wrong with this lady? Like, you know, I'm involved in the life that I'm in, and she's speaking life to me, this life that I never.
She's like, you're like, you know, do you understand what I was doing?
Yeah,
Like,
and it's crazy because she had all her grandsons and her family and everything. Like, it's all gang life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But seeing all that, she seen something in me that I couldn't even see in myself. And she was prophesying in my life without me even realizing what she was doing.
That's crazy.
She was speaking life to me. But as the years passed, like, her grandma will always show me love. And then she's like, no, mijo, you got to go to church. Like, mijo, get connected with God. I don't want nothing to do with that. But my wife was always like going to church. And she told me straight up, you want to be with me? She said, I don't want to be with no gangbanger. Either you get your life together or we're done.
Right.
But it was after prison, when I got out of prison, I got more involved in the streets and whatnot. And then at the age of 22, she found a small church through her aunt. Her aunt, you know, she rest in peace. She passed away last year. Because of her aunt finding this church, she tells my wife, look, there's a church that I want you to go to. You need to check it out. So at that time, my wife and I had a little apartment in Elmwood Park in Chicago. It's like the suburb, like it's borderline Chicago and Elmwood Park. The church wasn't too far away. We ended up going to the church.
So you said you guys were living together?
Yeah, we had a little apartment.
You had kids at the time?
Yeah, I was
no?
gonna say, did you have your first kid at the time?
Yeah, that time now I was about 21.
Okay, that's when you had your first kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My oldest, Sarita. My oldest was born. But it's still at that time, when you're so heavily involved in drugs,
yeah,
a part of you wants to change, but the other part is like, man, I want to leave this alone. I'm addicted. Like, this comes first before anything. But, you know, she started going to church, and I remember the pastor showing up to our apartment and having a little Bible study, and slowly but surely, you know, I will show up at the church from time to time, but then I'll disappear and I'll go back to the block. Yeah. But then my wife just kept being into it. And then where did the life transformation take place was where the pastor was telling me, you know, you're running from your calling. God is calling you to be a pastor.
The same calling that your grandma spoke over your life.
Right. My wife's grandma. Yeah. Wow. Well, she spoke into my life. Now I'm hearing another person. But it was crazy because even random people on the street, I remember being at a bus stop one day at a CTA, and this random dude comes up to me and he says, "Preacher, how you doing, preacher?" And I'm like, what is this?
Crazy.
Like, it was crazy to me because I had never even gone to church like that.
And this guy didn't know you at all.
No, it was just a random dude that would tell. So it was like I had different encounters where God was literally using people to tell me that he had a purpose in my life, but I was ignoring the signs, you know. So when we ended up showing up to that church, it was, I wasn't into it in the beginning, but my wife was more into it, right? And then I remember coming home drunk one day. I was drunk as a skunk, and she had my bags packed at the door, and she pretty much told me, that's it, I want a divorce, I don't want nothing to do with you, we done. And I'm drunk, and out of nowhere, she said, you know what? No. She started speaking to me and telling me, you're not going to be a drunk. I proclaim that you're going to be a preacher. You're going to be a pastor one day. I rebuke and I come against that spirit of drunkenness right now. So she started like praying for me.
Yeah.
Dude, that drunkenness went away. I wasn't drunk no more. I was sober. And I looked at her like, all right, what they teaching you at that church? Like, you got some magic powers. Like, what is this? I was scared now because I wasn't drunk no more now. I'm like, no, I need to go to that church. I need to see what's going on there. So it just, it took that point where I ended up going a little bit more, and I started listening to the preacher, listening to the pastor. And, it impacted me because I had never heard a pastor preach about God the way my old pastor had preached. It grasped me. It caught my attention. I was like, man, I want more of this. You know what I'm saying? But he pretty much told me straight up, you running from God, number one. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to come to church with a sign. If you don't give your life to Christ and you don't surrender, he said, I'm going to end up doing your funeral. When he told me that, I got shot 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later.
That was a sign. That was a sign.
That was a sign. I got shot 2 weeks later, July 7, 2007, 777. God's perfect number. I got shot. I remember
At
when
7 p.m.
no, it was around 2. It was around
I'm just
that would be crazy.
It was around 2.
That'd be too much.
It was around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I was out there with the guys, and we got into it with some oppositions, and whatever. They started shooting at us, and I was in a van. And long story short, I should have been dead right now. I shouldn't be alive. Bullets, the way they flew into that van, I should be long gone. But God spared me. He put his hand there. He protected me. But I got shot in my arm, which the bullet came in through my wrist bone and shattered my wrist bone in a million pieces. And
So when that happened, you were in the back of the car, you were in the front.
Well, actually, I was in one of those old school Chevy vans. They call them the Chevy 20s.
I think I know you're talking about.
They're conversion vans.
They're usually
where
like gray and stuff.
They have like
Old
the doors that open on the side, like open up, not sliding doors, but they open.
Yeah.
So they're older.
You were in the back, though.
I was in the middle. Like, you know what I'm saying? When you open the door, there's the front seat middle, and in the back, I was in the middle. So where you open the doors, that's where they started shooting at. And when the bullets came in, I felt a bullet hit my head. And I felt the heat. I felt everything.
Was it grazed you?
Nothing.
Wow.
I didn't have anything. I felt it. My head tucked back. I felt the heat. I felt everything.
Wow.
But there was nothing there. I had got shot in my arm and my wrist, and where it shattered my bone and everything. But being in that hospital room,
Can you show me where you got shot?
right here, so the bullet hole came in through here, and came out through right here, and then I had another bullet casing stuck on my arm right here. So pretty much the bullet, they think I was shot with a 45 with a 4.4, and it shattered my wrist
All
bone
that,
completely. Like the wrist bone was totally gone. So the surgeon pretty much told me, like, you're gonna stay handicapped the rest of your life.
So do you remember what happened though? Like when you got shot, like afterwards?
It hurt like crazy. It felt like I hit with a baseball bat, and it was like, when your foot like falls asleep and you get calambre.
Yeah.
Like it felt like that, but
Like
a bunch of needles on my arm, and it was just like pain, and it hurt like crazy. It felt like somebody was hitting me with a baseball bat. How it hurt. And then like the blood was just gushing out, like it was just like the worst pain ever I experienced.
After you got shot, did they take you to the hospital?
We flew to the hospital because it's crazy. There was 7 of us inside of that van.
Wow.
And the dudes
That's a lot of sevens, bro.
right? And the dudes that got shot were dudes where God was getting their attention. Like me, I was visiting the church, and the dude that was in front of me, he grew up in church.
Wow.
And he had walked away from God, from what I found out. And I found out that he had walked away from God. He stopped going to church or whatever. And now he's in a wheelchair. He's wheelchair bound.
From that incident.
From that incident. So and when everything happened, that was like the turning point. Like I was like, all right, cool. Like this pastor, my old pastor, told me that I was gonna come with a sign. Here's my sign.
How bad was it when you went to the hospital?
Oh well, I had this device on my arm for like 3 months, and the device was just basically to keep my arm in place.
And did they tell you that you were going to be able to fully function?
They said that you would never be able to use your hand again?
The surgeon told me, you're going to stay handicapped the rest of your life. You're not going to be able to use your hand, so be ready to be without an arm.
And that's your right hand.
That's my right hand. So I remember.
And you're right-handed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I remember telling the surgeon, like, all right, so I'm going to church a little bit more now. So I'm listening to what the preacher's saying. I'm listening to, him, my old pastor speaking about this healing and how the Lord does a work, and you know what I'm saying. So I'm hearing all this. Now I'm applying it. I'm speaking it in faith. I told the surgeon, I said, hey man, you believe in miracles? And he's like, nah, I don't believe in miracles, man. And I'm like, well, I don't accept what you're telling me. You say I'm going to be handicapped for the rest of my life. I don't accept that. I believe that Christ is going to heal me.
And that's when the preacher was born, baby.
That
was your first sermon, right?
That was the first sermon, yeah.
And now look, your hand.
I hurt my hand. I could use it. God healed me. God did the work. But it was just a whole journey of that experience. But then my oldest daughter, Sarita, was the instrument that God used to help me to change my life. So my oldest means a lot.
You have 3,
I got
right?
3. I got my oldest, Sarita, then Ariana, and Maya. All 3 of them have a special place in my heart. But there's something about Sarita she was the first individual that God used, like my blood, my daughter, that I realized I gotta be there for her. I gotta be a dad. I love my daughter to death. My daughter is my everything. All 3 of my daughters are my everything. And for her, it's like, I made a choice. Like, I want to be a dad. I want to be there for her. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to change my life. She was my motivation. She was my motivation to stop doing drugs. She was my motivation to stop drinking.
Hey,
She
shout out
was-
to Sarita.
Yes,
Yeah, shout out.
Sarita Rivera. I love you. She was my motivation to get a job and become a man. And you know what? My pastor, Carlos Sanchez, much love for him. I always remember everything that he taught me as a preacher and a pastor, shepherd. There was some good things that he taught me that I've always carried in my life. He taught me how to man up and take care of my responsibilities and be a husband to my wife.
Especially when you have a kid, man.
Yeah, so he spoke life into my life. There was some lot of good positive moments where he influenced me in some good ways.
I was gonna. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I was gonna just touch on what you were saying. At that time, when you're in the hospital, did like God speak to you at all?
Yeah, it's crazy because I kept hearing the pastor's voice in my head.
Like
After,
repeatedly.
yeah, like
you're
the
gonna
sign,
be a pastor.
the sign in the past, right? And then the police officer had came inside the hospital room and he said, you know, where you were sitting at, you should have been dead right now. He said, I don't even know how you still alive.
Wow.
He said, there must be a God watching over you. And that's where I'm crying more now in that emergency room in that hospital because I knew I'm like, what the pastor was saying, it's true. It's actually happening. And here I am having this crazy experience. Now it's a turning point. Now it's a life. I got to make a turning point. I got to make a life change. It wasn't that easy. That at that moment, my wife had gave me divorce papers. Like we were not living together.
You got shot.
I got shot.
With addiction.
I was living with my stepdad. I was addicted to cocaine, to drinking, to partying. And now, you know, I have a daughter that she was about a year and a half. And now I got all this on my plate. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to change? How am I going to do this?
Most people in that environment, man, they, like you said, they either end up in jail or they end up dying.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy like that you got out of that. You basically defeated death.
It's
like,
crazy.
Honestly.
I'm a dead man walking. I shouldn't be here. But it's by the grace of God that God saved my life and he gave me a chance.
I was gonna say, for anybody that's in that environment, what would you say? What advice would you give to somebody to get out of that? That's like in the bad situations, gang life, and is trying to change their life.
No,
Well,
wait. No, because
I cut him off too fast.
Yeah, you cut him off too fast. There's a little. Let's
a little bit more. I gotta share a little bit more.
Bro, you were already
sorry,
like.
It's okay, Angel. You're doing good,
listen,
bro.
we're learning right now,
I'm
guys.
digging them Brahma Bull headphones, bro. The rock status right here.
Yo,
Hey, man,
hey,
I
shout
like
out to The
those
Rock.
headphones. Yes. Yes, bro.
Hey, man, we're learning. You know what I'm saying?
No,
we
it's
only
good.
have 5 episodes, guys.
It's all good and it's gonna get better, amen. And I know that this podcast is gonna be a blessing for many. You know, whoever's gonna hear this,
I appreciate that.
it's
Hey, we're gonna
it's
take that like a prophecy.
It's gonna be a blessing, right? Because somebody does need to hear this. If it's just one person that needs to hear the story, that's what I said. God changed me to reach one or reach many. But whoever needs to hear this, they need to hear it.
So I have a question. So when you got your sign,
Right.
now what? What did she do with that?
Changed over, made amends with my wife. It took a process. It took like maybe a year to restore our marriage, to end up moving back with each other. We ended up moving back with the in-laws. It was a whole process, man.
Yeah.
A whole process. Started going more to church. I ended up leaving the city and I ended up moving to Mount Prospect. I lived in Mount Prospect for about 4 to 5 years. I got away from the city life and I just said, you know, I was going to church in the city. Man, it was like almost every day going to church. But that was what God had to use to mold me into the man of God that I am
How
today.
far was the commute? Like 45?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would do it, you know, 5-6 times a week.
So when you went back and you had your sign, did you had a conversation with your pastor and you're like, yo,
Yeah. I pretty much, my turning point was December 31st, 2007. I had a crazy encounter with God, an experience where I experienced deliverance, deliverance from demonic forces. I really don't talk about it, but I know what it is to be possessed by demons. I was possessed by demons, and it was a New Year's Eve service, and I fell out. I got demon possessed, and it was this crazy experience. There was people there in the church, and I started slithering on the ground like a snake, and it was just some crazy demonic experience that was the turning point where God set me free, and He allowed me to go through that to show me the intensity of how the devil is real and demons are real.
I was just about to say that. People don't understand, man. The devil is real. Yeah. I was just about to say that when you were talking. That's crazy.
And I experienced that demonic manifestation where I heard those demons speaking through me, and how they were giving an assignment since I was a child was to take me out, to kill me. Because I remember I could still hear it, that they had control of my body, but I didn't have control over them. And I could hear them speaking. And I remember to this day how they said we were given an assignment, and our assignment is to kill him before he totally surrenders, because too many were going to come to that name, which is Jesus. Wow. And that crazy. Was like my turning point. I got delivered. I got set free. I started convulsing and throwing up, and it was just a whole crazy experience. God delivered me on December 31st, 2007. That's when I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this no more. Turning point, surrender my life completely to Christ. And I just went full forward from that.
Is this a good time now to ask the question, or it's...
yeah.
Right now. Okay, let me ask it.
Man, out of time?
No.
Okay.
That's powerful. But something that I want to clarify is that, a lot of people give the enemy too much power. You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand, in the name of Jesus, you were set free.
I was set free.
You were set free. So I just want to emphasize that there's power in the name of Jesus, and you will be set free. That's kind of a similar experience that I had too.
Yeah,
when I came to Christ, and it was me surrendering and saying the name of Jesus, and then them not being able to touch you. You know what I'm saying? You have been sealed, and I really want to emphasize that, because sometimes we emphasize the power of these demonic things, but we got to emphasize that there's a name, and that name, my guy,
is Jesus.
And,
that
what
name.
I'm saying? There's legions,
Jesus.
an army. That will flee at that name. And that's what really I want to emphasize, because sometimes we we magnify sometimes the works of the enemy and how deep you were in the assignment that they had. And that one night,
God delivered me,
those people were,
praying for me and casting it out,
they blocked that assignment from the enemy,
And after that was a life-changing experience.
I was going to say, man, that's crazy to think about what Dave was saying in like the the devil working. I was telling him like how I was struggling about just the thoughts and just thinking negatively and all that. And I was just thinking about sometimes that's a force on you.
Yeah.
That's a force trying to.
It is real.
Like you said, there's an assignment. They have an assignment.
Very
to
organized.
Try. Yeah.
The devil is organized. He's
is.
a lieutenant. He has his soldiers. He has his sergeants. He's very organized organization, just like the way gangs are organized and the army and every organization is organized. The devil is organized, and he is patient, and he will do everything in his power to steal, kill, and destroy. And if he has to take time, watch you, observe you, strategize, take his time, he will do it, because his main goal is to separate you from God. But here I am 16 years later. God has been a blessing in my life. Jesus has been, I'm in love with Jesus, man. I've been through so much, just walking with him, ups and downs, miracles I've seen before my eyes, financial blessings that he's provided, healing upon my family. My daughter, my second daughter was, when she was born, she was given only a 10% chance to live. She was literally dying in the hospital room and given not too much long to survive. And the Lord did a miracle in her life. And here she is, 14 years old now. Just been through so much. I just decided to get deep into the word. I became a youth pastor about a year after I got saved. Then I started working with teenagers. I was a youth pastor for 8 years. And those were the awesome moments in my life where I really got to connect with these young people and embrace them and love on them, and giving the responsibility to watch over them and be their shepherd, which was helped me to mature in the Lord, mature in the faith, and really get in there in the word and learn to lead them. And then that opportunity came where here in Aurora, just being taught in our old church, how to walk with God, how to pray, how to fast, how to get in the word, how to have a relationship with him, that when times got tough and, because the devil raises up war, there's times to battle. And we were taught when battles come, you got to pray. You got to fast. You got to hit the enemy back. You can't show the enemy no weakness. You know what I'm saying? You got to be ready for it. And there's times where you have to be armored up and ready a lot to be able to fight against them. But there's moments where you experience peace and rest, and God is right there with you.
Especially with a story like yours.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That right there in itself, anybody that like you, when you were 15 and you were that age, speaking that story to that young man can change their life.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of people that probably have a similar story to you. They can hear it and they're like,
man, if he could do it, I could do it.
Exactly. Like,
and
this
you
guy got out of it.
Yeah.
And you can, because Jesus don't have no exception of people, man. He accepts whoever and wherever and what you're involved in. He doesn't care. All he wants is you. And if he has to drag you out from under a bridge, if he has to drag you out from a crack house, if he has to drag you out from a broken family or abusive relationship, whatever he has to do to rescue you, he's going to do it. Because when he has a plan and a purpose for you, he's going to do whatever he has to do to get your attention. Amen. And I'm glad that he got my attention. I'm glad that, I think about all the stuff that I've been through in my past, and I'm like, man, it was some very harsh, difficult moments, but I learned through those moments, and I'm so appreciative now of where I am now in my walk and my faith, what God has blessed me with as position as a pastor in a Restoration Church here in Aurora. I've been here for 7 years, and it was an opportunity of pastoring youth for 8 years, and then that opportunity opened up to come and just help a church, just help bring sermons. I didn't even know that they were looking for a pastor, but God made a way.
God put you where He wanted you.
Yeah.
And I was gonna relate to like what you were saying about your story. Like for me growing up, I grew up like I had brothers that were in gangs and stuff like that. And for me, I just learned from that.
Yeah.
Like I would like see how they were, and I'm like, that's not how I'm supposed to be.
And you know what? That's how my younger brother,
He was like that too.
He's seen that I was involved in all this junk that I was in. My brother Edgar, and he pretty much told me like, man, he just seen the police coming to pick you up and surrounding the house and going through all this stuff, them handcuffing you and different times. He just didn't see that once. He's seen it multiple times. And he's seen just how my life was just going down the drain. He told me straight up, it's because of you and seeing you, what you were involved in. He said, I didn't want to be like you. So that caused me to go into the military. He went into the military, and here he just got promoted. He's a master sergeant in the Marines now.
Wow.
That's a high-ranking Marine. That's way up there. But he's been in the Marines for almost 20 years now.
It's crazy.
But he told me straight up, like, you being involved in the stuff that you were involved in caused me to make a change. But when I first converted, he wasn't really into it. Like, nah, I don't think Manny's really real with this, until years started passing. And then when I became a pastor in Aurora, that's when he's like, bro, this is serious,
this
dog.
guy's
like,
serious. Yeah.
like,
He started seeing the fruit of that.
This is real. Like, bro, this is real. And to God be the glory. Well, my sister passed away in 2017, and my stepdad that raised me passed away in 2018. And my brother was very close to God, very close to the whole spirituality thing. But then when my father passed, my brother was going through a very tough time in his life. And I ended up driving to North Carolina because that's where he was stationed at. And I spent some time with him, and I said, bro, the Lord sent me over here to talk to you. And I just told him, I said, you're troubled, bro. You think you're going to die next. And I just started telling him stuff that God was telling me. And my brother started crying. And he's like, how do you know all this, bro? And I said, Daddy, bro, like, I'm connected to the Lord up there, bro. God talks, man. He's just talking to you.
Yep.
And then he told me straight up something that really impacted me. He said, bro, how can you smile and how can you laugh and be at peace when AJ is gone? That's my sister.
Yeah.
And when Dad is gone, bro. He said, how can you even function? I said, bro, I'm hurting, bro. Like, I miss them. But I said, one thing you got to understand, AJ and Dad, they're both believers, bro. They both gave their life to Christ. They know who Jesus is. I said, they're right now in the glory, bro. They're in paradise, dog. And God wants the same thing for you. But in order for you to enter into his kingdom, you got to give your life to Jesus, bro. But he ain't going to force himself into your life. And my brother, I remember, man, we were at the beach, not too far away from where he stayed at. And my brother accepted Christ inside of my car. And he's like, man, I want some of this Jesus that you have, bro. And I said, man, Jesus is free, brother. And my brother ended up giving his life to the Lord. So it took tragedies to take place. But I know that my sister and my dad are in heaven. But it took these two tragedies for my brother to give his life to Christ. And just how God works in so many different ways is amazing.
All right, Angel, this would be a good question to ask.
I'm sorry. Hey, I want to.
No, you're good, man.
No, I just wanted to clarify. Like, I wasn't asking to cut you off. I feel bad now.
Good,
No,
bro.
no, you're
I
good.
got much love for you, brother.
No, it's
All right.
it's because the story was getting good, and you're like,
Yeah, I'm like, so
So
real
we're gonna
quick.
cut this off here.
yeah,
What would you say?
yeah. What's your favorite color, Pastor?
Yeah.
So real quick, what was your first job again?
Tell me a little bit more about Burger King. No, but you were gonna ask him something.
Oh, I was gonna ask, like, for somebody that in that environment or in a bad situation similar to yourself, what advice would you give them to get out of it?
Well, first and foremost, if you're involved in a gang, look for a way to get out. You know, there's some organizations that they require you to get a violation out. Some you got to pay money. I was blessed and fortunate to the point where I got to speak to one of the main guys, and I told him what was going on, and I gave my life to the Lord, and I'm starting to go to church, and I want to get my life together. I want to be a dad to my daughter. I just told him the whole shebang, the whole situation, and everything that I was doing, and he pretty much told me, like, all right, bro, you're free to go. Just don't come back here trying to gangbang. You come back trying to gangbang, we're going to smash you, and we're going to do something worse to you. So this is your green light to ride out, and if you decide to come back, then it's to come back to take the homies to church. But other than that, don't be trying to come over here trying to gangbang. And that was my green light. Like, okay, I'm done. So I made that decision. All right, I cut that tie. I cut people, places, and things in order to make a change in my life. So I got involved in the church. I cut people, places, and things. I moved out of the environment that I was in, got into an environment that was gonna keep me away from temptation, but had me to really focus on, all right, I'm married, I'm 24 years old, I got a year and a half old daughter, got my wife, I got responsibilities, I got to step up. So my advice to those that are trying to make a change, do it. You can do it. The only person that can't make a change is you. It's by you telling yourself, I can't do it. Yes, you can.
So what do they got to cut again?
People, places, and things. That's what I had to learn how to do. I had to cut negative people out of my life. Yeah. I had to change my number.
Your environment.
My environment, people, places, and things. And that's pretty much like if you ever go to NA meetings or AA meetings, there's some of the things that they talk about. You got to be able to know your surroundings and watch out for people, places, and things. And I've been to those type of meetings, so that's something that I grasped onto when I was in my faith. And I'm like, all right, I got to cut people, places, and things that's going to cause me to fall and surround myself around the positive things. And my routine was waking up in the morning, talking to God, praying, reading the word, going to work, coming back home from work, being at home, eating dinner, being with my wife and my daughter. And then when there was church days, going to church, and it was a routine. So it was God, work, home, church. God, work, home, church. It's just like, it was clockwork. And yeah, I was young. It got a little boring. But once I started working in youth ministry, it's like, that was my motivation. And I had to change my whole lifestyle. Like, I'm going to serve God wholeheartedly now. I'm going to go 100 with this. I'm not going to go halfway. Not like if I was so stressed out and to the fullest on the streets and getting high and doing all that junk that I was involved in, I said, well, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to be full force for God. I don't want to be halfway in this. Yeah. Man, so
I have another question. So what would you tell someone that is like hopeless right now and can't find a way out, you know? Can you talk a little bit about
if you're
Jesus?
Yes. If you're hopeless, let me tell you something. God hears the cries of his people. Even if you're deep into sin. If you cry out to God from the depths of your heart, he will hear you. He will respond in one way or another. If he has to speak to you through a dream, he will do it. If he has to speak to you through an audible voice, he will do it. If he has to speak to you through your mother, through somebody, he will do it. If he has to allow a situation to take place, like with me getting shot, which opened up my eyes, if he has to do whatever it takes to get your attention, he's going to do it. Because I remember before the breaking point, there were some moments where I was so high out of my mind that I was high, but I was crying out to God. And I was saying, God, if you're there, like, do something, man. This is before I got shot. And I didn't tell you guys, I OD'd on cocaine 3 times. 3 different times I OD'd on cocaine. So it's just like, I went through so much before the transformation, before the life-changing experience. But I remember in those times, in my high times, when I was so just high as a kite, crying out to God, like, where you at? If you real, like, show me you real. But then I used to argue with God and then be like, well, you're not there. Or then I used to be like, man, but don't send me to hell though. You know, so it was like a battle, like, you're not real. But then another part of me like, man, please don't let me die and go to hell, man. I don't want to wake up burning in flames. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that battle.
It was
Back and forth.
It was that spiritual battle.
Spiritual battle. But Jesus, man, when you let him, like, all he is doing, he's knocking at the door of your heart, man. He's like, let me in. And I'm telling you, once you let Christ in, your life will begin to change for the better. And the more and more you get connected with him in prayer is just communicating, talking to God, just talking to him, being real and just letting this junk out. There's just some things that you can't tell other people. The only person you can tell is him. All the hurt, maybe abuse and things that were done. Yeah, I give it to him.
I would say too, be patient.
Yeah.
Patient, because like you said, you crying out to him and it wasn't your time.
Right.
And then that happened to you and it was like a turning point. So I would, like, be patient and just wait.
And it's a routine. You know, people, you got to stay away from people, places, and things, your surroundings, and then your devotional time. You got to literally take time out to spend with God. You got to pray. You got to read the word. You got to get connected. For those that don't have no hope, man, Jesus is your hope. Yeah. If God could change me, man, he could change anybody. And there's millions across this whole world that have made,
really good,
that have cried out to Jesus, and Jesus has changed them.
That's what happened. That's what happened to me.
Amen.
And I feel like if you're listening to this, we also want to invite you to our church. Me and Angel actually go to Restoration Church. Yeah, we Manny's do. Actually our pastor.
yeah.
So we just want to invite you.
It's an honor to be a pastor to these young bucks.
Hey, man. Appreciate it, man. I'm happy that we got you on, man.
Hey, man, this is an honor, a privilege for me, man. I'm grateful.
You have a great story, and I really feel like.
And there's many more to it, but
hey, so tell us a little bit about because you're starting a podcast as well.
That's what
it's in the works.
I'm in the works. I'm praying on it and getting ready for it.
So as soon as you got the name and you're ready, let us know.
So we can shout you out and
course,
get people to listen to it.
And then the podcast is it's about making connections with people. And you guys are, believe it or not, you guys are inspiration to me. Just seeing you guys do this. It's like now I'm actually sitting here in an actual podcast, seeing these brothers like launch out, and it's motivating to me like, man, this is awesome. You know what I'm saying? But this is just like the beginning of, there's so much you can do with this, so many people you can reach. And this is the new thing now.
Yeah, no, it is. And we just want to thank you too for like believing in us.
Yeah. And I was going to say, man, you don't know how much that means to me. Cause like, this is like, I've been wanting to do this for so long, and just to be an inspiration to, to somebody like yourself to want to do that. It means a lot, man. And anybody that wants to start a podcast too, man, I would say do it. But only do it if you're speaking life to people.
Yeah, there has to be a purpose behind it. What's your message? Yeah. What you're trying to deliver? Is it jokes? Is it just? It's just got to be topics that you guys are doing really good at. You're coming up with different topics, different questions. You're as I've been listening since episode 1 till now, is like, yeah, these guys are getting on point. And the more and more you get into it, the more and more you're gonna learn. The more and more.
Let's be real though. Let's be real. In the beginning, right now, we were nervous. As soon as we saw Pastor walk through the door, I was double looking. I'm like,
I could sense the jittery, and I said, these brothers are nervous, man.
Hi, Pastor.
Pastor,
he's here already. Oh man, no, but you guys.
No, because you were here early. We said, hey, Pastor, be here at 4:30. You were here at 4, so I was like, the room wasn't even set up.
Exactly.
Like I had to bring that plant from like the other room. We were doing the whole setup.
No, but these guys, they're doing really well, and I'm really inspired by this. And I know this is the beginning of many great things. And God, what He's looking is for, in Spanish, is that está buscando personas que son atrevidas, people that are just, they launch out, they're not afraid, they're brave, courageous. And doing this is out of act of bravery, being courageous.
For real, because I struggled like. You guys don't understand. I struggled with that for a long time. Just.
But Jesus.
Yeah. God, really, man. God.
There you go.
God changed that in me. I was like, what am I worried about? Like, I want to speak life to people, so why not do what God? Honestly, I feel like God gives people gifts and talents to spread His word and encourage people. And I felt like I'm the guy. Like he's like, use your gift. Speak to people. Speak life to people. Encourage people. People need to hear other people's stories. And then when I was thinking about you, I'm like, the first person that me and David thought of, I was like, Pastor, because you're genuine. The first time I went to the church, man, I was like, man, this guy is real, bro. And we need people that are real. We need people that are gonna tell it how it is and that are genuine and
But they don't just talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's something that you showed me, Pastor. It wasn't like you weren't just talking. You know, you would bring me plates of food. No, for real. He would come, like, we have a prayer meeting here every Monday, and he'd come, be like, here, my family cooked this for you. I was like, what? The thanks. And then the next Monday was happened. Like, yo, this, thanks. I was like, oh, all right, thanks. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you have been showing me, you know, love for me and my family and my friends, and we just want to thank you. Thank you again for being here.
Oh, no problem.
And I got to confess something. So that day we were at church with Angel, right? Uh-huh. They were passing the offering bucket, and he took $20.
Nah, bro.
He said, hey,
turn or burn, brother. Turn or burn.
Hey, I told Angel, I'm like, yo, why are you doing that? He's like,
oh, man.
It's daddy. He's giving me an allowance.
He's giving me an allowance.
I'm like, bro, it doesn't work like that,
go ahead,
bro.
son. Take it out the offering plate. It's all good.
Hey, I want the new PS5. I was like, bro, it doesn't work like that.
Hey, all I gotta say is that how you think I got the new mics? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for episode 6.
These guys are crazy.
Pastor Manny, thank you for being here.
No
Appreciate
problem. It's
you,
a
man.
blessing. Amen. Thank you so
Catch you
much.
guys on the next episode. Peace.
Peace out.
Hi, Papi.